complex or at least reflective ideas. You also might have noticed how Jay emphasized the word didn't when he said he didn't like Pixar movies. Well, we also have a video all about emphasis in IELTS speaking. Be sure to check it out at e2testprep.com to see how you can improve your pronunciation on test day. Let's have a look at another way we can extend ideas. Technique 3, talk about past habits. When talking about old habits, the phrase used to is great. It makes you start reflecting quickly. It might look like this. When I was a kid, I used to, and then you continue by adding details with I would. Let's see what Jay can tell us.
My brother and I used to watch movies together all the time. He would usually pick action movies, but when it was my turn to pick, I usually picked cartoons. I remember watching Transformers the movie with him once, the really old animation one, which is funny because it's actually a pretty emotional film, and I guess that's what Toy Story 3 reminded me of. There's a scene towards the end that's actually pretty intense, and it really brought me back to feeling like a kid again.
Let's look at this response in a bit more detail. So here, Jay says, my brother and I used to watch movies together all the time. Great, used to. Then he starts adding details with would and the basic form. He would pick action movies. But when it was my turn to pick, I would, or in this case, I'd, usually pick cartoons. So we've got used to and would, and we can use them in the same way to describe a past habit. He's also extended with which is funny because in order to start reflecting on the experience and clearly connect it with Toy Story 3. So he's compared the two movies, vintage E2 technique. Fantastic. Let's get back to the next extending technique, which is technique number 4, use emotion. What is the emotional part of your speaking response? And how can you prime yourself to talk about something emotionally? Here are a few words that might make you think more clearly about this. Sadly, to be honest, fortunately, or unfortunately. These words can really help you channel the emotion that you felt and let ideas inform the grammar and vocabulary that you use. Let's take a look at the next part of Jay's answer.
To be honest, I don't watch a lot of big Hollywood movies these days. I think they're kind of empty, which isn't great for kids. I remember feeling a lot more inspired by movies when I was younger. Sadly, I think it's too hard to compete with video games these days for kids' attention. But I think if I were a kid again and saw this movie, I might be pretty impressed and inspired.
Great. Now, is this really answering the question? Yes. Jay talked about a movie he enjoyed recently and why he enjoyed it, and he even spoke about it in an abstract way. He's no movie expert and he's no child psychologist, but he's able to talk about these ideas in a thoughtful and meaningful way just by using his own experience and ideas. Now, some of you might be thinking, these are great ideas. I'm totally going to use them in my next test. That's great, but remember, practice is essential. And so is feedback. You can get feedback by taking a speaking assessment with E2 Test Prep. One of our IELTS experts will tell you what you've done, as well as what you might want to do to improve your score. Speaking feedback is available in a range of IELTS preparation packages at e2testprep.com. Let's look at the next technique. Technique number 5, talk about a new experience. Let's take a look at these phrases. I had never seen anything like it. Or, I had never before. These phrases show that whatever you're talking about changed you somehow. It's not just something that happened, but it made you think or behave differently. Pay attention to it in Jay's response.
I actually cried a little bit. I'd never cried while watching movies before, so I guess I have to admit that this movie was pretty special.
Also, while we're using the past perfect verb tense, I had seen, for example, let's have a look at another way we can use the past perfect. This technique is providing backstory. Technique number 6, provide a backstory. Sometimes, whilst telling a story, we remember details about things that happened before the story we're telling. Here's an example of Jay adding extra details with the past perfect verb tense.
A few weeks ago I watched the movie Alien. I'd actually seen it when I was much younger, but I'd forgotten most of what happened.
Great. So Jay has again started with a time intro, but then he added a bit of detail. Then he very spontaneously added a bit of backstory. People do this all the time in every language. Now, in both of these techniques, he used the past perfect. Let's have a closer look at his response. I'd never cried while watching a movie before. A few weeks ago, I watched the movie Alien. I'd actually seen it when I was much younger, but I'd forgotten most of what happened. Let's just have a quick reminder of the grammar. I had never cried. I had actually seen it before. I had forgotten. So again, we have I had followed by the past participle. It's a great way to incorporate a wider range of grammar. Be careful, we are talking about something that happened before the story that we're telling, but try to think of this as providing background to what you're describing. Again, let the ideas that come to you guide the language that you use. The more you reflect, the more you'll need to use complex language. Now let's move on to the next technique. Technique 7, reflect globally. In this technique, you reflect on what other people might think and then compare that to what you think. You can do it with phrases like these. I know that most people think, but I, Some people, but I, Some people think, other people think, so I think, What do people think or do generally? Do people typically like or dislike this movie? This gives you a chance to reflect on it and further explore. Let's hear Jay's response.
I know a lot of people think that this is probably just a kid's movie, but I actually think that there's a lot of deep themes that adults will actually relate to more. Friendship, despair, even mortality.
And by the way, this is a great place to keep extending with a good example. Listen to this.
There's one scene near the end where it looks like all the characters are about to die. It's pretty intense. You see them all holding hands and there's this look on their face that shows that they fully understand that this is the end. It's pretty intense. I don't know if kids pick up on that, but adults definitely will.
That's a pretty good response. But I've got one more IELTS speaking technique for you. Technique number 8, consider the importance. I always ask my students to think about these words when answering an IELTS speaking question. So what? Why does it matter? What's so great about what you've just said? Have a look at these phrases. Which is important because. Which is great because. Which is unfortunate because. Which is really weird because. Which was really unexpected because. These phrases are all really useful to explain why your response is important or why it matters. Let's listen to how Jay explains why his response is important.
I think this is great. Whoever wrote the story must have really wanted kids to see and feel that friendship is perhaps one of the most important things in our lives, which is great because so many movies just try to excite kids and
All these techniques, but when you're practicing,
sadly, I think too many kids' movies nowadays just want to make kids laugh with silly jokes.
your opinions, Your positions, your personality will give you the ideas. Let the ideas guide your language. So let's recap. The first technique we looked at was start with a time intro. Number 2, compare the past with the present. Number 3, ideas. On test day, you're not going to try to remember them and use them. It should be a habit. And of course, you don't have to use all of them. Absolutely not. 1 or 2 of them will probably give you enough to extend your idea adequately. By the way, you might be thinking this is great. I've got some good ideas that I can use now. So you'll want to get feedback from an IELTS expert. So be sure to go over to e2testprep.com and see what IELTS preparation package will work best for you. At E2,
Okay, I will end there because it's now about promotionals. Alright, so these are the summary of the 8 techniques that you can use to develop well your speaking activity or your speaking test. Now, remember class that these 8 techniques are not for you to use during the test like as a whole, but it's like a balance between hard and also simple. Alright, difficult and easy. Let's take for example this one. Oh, by the way. Okay.
complex.
2 years ago, my family and I went to South Korea, and in there we visited, a zoo where we found a lot of animals. But there is this one animal that really interests me, and that was the giraffe products. Maybe meat, but there's also meat in the countryside, right? But which is more cheaper, the one at the countryside or here at the city center? Countryside is way more cheaper. But there are products here that cannot be bought at the countryside. So you have to spend for it, right? What else? I don't know, with some of the things that you will buy, I mean, going to the countryside. But again, it will take some sort of money for you to spend traveling to the countryside. Now, if you don't have a car, if you don't have any means to travel, what will you use? Mostly the public bus or the train? Yeah, the train, right? Going to, let's say, Eldoret, going to Darhan and some other provinces, right? And how much will you be paying for a train to Eldoret, for example? I think that's way more cheaper than than the taxi or the bus. Yeah, I haven't experienced that one yet, so I'm asking you, maybe you have experience traveling by train before, so you would know because again you have traveled before. Number 3, you may also use that to talk about past habits. Before, I used to play volleyball, but now I usually play basketball. And why? Why did that change? Alright? Maybe because it is difficult to play volleyball if you have no one to play with, right? Imagine just playing with yourself. With volleyball, can you even imagine playing that one? But with basketball, you can do it alone, right? Even without your other team members, you just do it alone as a hobby, or like you would like to sweat out. Lose some fat, so you play and so on. Maybe that could be the reason, or what else? What could be the possible reasons why a person would change his, let's say, sport from this to this? Let's say from volleyball to basketball. What do you think could be the reasons? Let's ask from the gentleman. What do you think? What do you think would be the reasons why that change would happen? From volleyball to basketball. Number 1, of course, with volleyball you need someone to play with, right? Basketball you can play alone, but what else? What else?
They can lose interest.
Hmm?
They can lose interest.
Yes, okay, interest is really very important here. So maybe before you were so passionate about playing volleyball, but now basketball has brought more what? More drive, more passion to you. Or before, let's say I used to cook for my family, but now I just buy from restaurants, or I don't know. I just have takeouts from restaurants. Do you do that, by the way? Not really, right? We usually cook for our own food on a daily basis, but there are times when we have to dine in a restaurant. So you may again explain a past habit. Another one is I used to join competitions or contests like English Olympiads, Math Olympiads, what else? History Olympiad? There's a History Olympiad here, right? Mongolian literature and some other Olympiads. But now, I am more into activities like basketball, what else? Volleyball, swimming, boxing, if you're into boxing. Okay? So before, you were so academic. Math, English, science, history, literature, chemistry, physics. You attended almost all of them. But now, you're not very academic. You're more into extracurricular activities like playing basketball, playing for a team or for the national team and so on. So that is an example of talking about past habits as well, and also connecting it with number 2. But now it's way more different, okay? Past habits. Number 4, use emotions. So this is a very important feature, class, when you answer a speaking test. Imagine saying, imagine you're being asked to describe a happy memory when you were still a child. Remember happy memory, a happy memory. And then the way you express it is like this. When I was a child, my mom brought me to an amusement park. I really enjoyed being there. Yeah, it was fun. And it was great. No emotions at all. And then you're being asked to describe what? A happy memory. So if the examiner would think, are you a zombie? Or are you an alien? Are you a robot? Or some sort of, extraterrestrial creature or something like that? Because if it's about a happy memory, you should express it on the way you speak, talk. How should you talk about a happy memory? But not too much, okay? Not too much as if you're now getting crazy and saying like you're a different person now. But just enough, for the examiner to know that indeed that is a happy memory. Okay, when you said that it was fun, it must show like I had fun playing with my friends before. It made me strong. It made me, I don't know, whatever is that. So it must show. Also your eyes, sometimes our eyes can speak more than our mouth. Okay? So we see our eyes tantalizing, our eyes sparkling, our eyes shimmering. Okay, that will show on the way you share your answer to a question which is about a happy memory. Is that clear? So use emotions, and if it's you're sad, you say sadly. Yeah. When I was a child, my mom would usually bring me to a zoo. Sadly, that is not the case now because when I entered high school, we had limited time to spend outside. Okay? Sadly. So you are sad about it. Or if it's something like, a blessing for you, you say, luckily. Or fortunately. Okay? Fortunately, I was able to conquer this and that. Or, let's say, surprisingly, I got the first place. Okay, you are talking about a contest you have joined. Let's say, When I was in 8th grade, I joined an English Olympiad competition, and fortunately or surprisingly, I got the first place. You know, emotions will still be there, right? Emotions should always be there. You didn't say, fortunately, I got the first place. Are you really happy about it? Because it doesn't show. Right? It doesn't show that you're happy. You say, well, I got the first place. Are you sure you're happy about it? Again, it must show. That is why when you answer a question, make sure that you know how to express your emotions so that the examiner would know that you are very sincere about what you're saying, and also you know what you're saying and what you're talking about. Okay? Number 5, it is also a very common technique, class, to talk about a new experience. What is this? So, for example, you went to a place that is new to you, and of course, it is a new experience, right? You were used to going, let's say, on my end, because I am not a Mongolian, so it is like a new experience for me to visit a monastery. Okay? Buddhism is not a very common religion in my country. Okay, in fact, there are only maybe around 500 Buddhists in my home country. A lot of us are Catholic Christians, you know. We follow Christianity. You know, we're Christians in that case. So when I came here in Mongolia, I had the chance to visit a lot of monasteries because we don't have many monasteries in the Philippines. Maybe 1 or 2 only. 2 monasteries. The rest are churches. You know, churches related to Christianity. So when I came here, I said, it's an experience for me to visit a monastery, how Buddhist monks pray, how they meditate, how they also, you know, venerate Buddha and everything in there. So it's a new experience for me. So when I talk about it, I would say, by the time I came here in Mongolia, the first place I made sure I will be able to go to was the, what is it? Yeah, that monastery over there. Gandam Chen, Ganda Monastery. Because I think it's a very famous monastery as well, with a big statue of Buddha. Am I right? Buddha, right? So that's a new experience. How about you? Do you have any new experiences? I believe you have, but what are those experiences that you have? I mean, as a new experience, huh? Do you have any new experiences? Oh, let's say attending a competition, like your first time attending a competition, or first time, it's your first time traveling abroad, alone, okay? Have you experienced traveling alone? Who has experienced traveling alone? I mean, to another country, yeah? What does it say? Not yet? How about Odun Jargan? Have you experienced traveling abroad alone? Or always with your parents or your sisters, brothers?
Kansara
With your?
I'm traveling alone.
Oh, you usually travel alone? Oh, okay, that's good. How about the others? Do you always travel with your parents?
No, I usually travel with my brother.
With your brother?
Yeah, but go to Japan.
With your brother?
Yeah.
Oh, going to Japan, you traveled alone?
No, never.
Yeah, because I think you're still a minor, right? How old are you? How old are you?
17.
Yeah, that's below the legal age. So you're not allowed to travel alone. No? I mean, especially to another country. But maybe here within Mongolia, you can travel alone. But of course, in UB, for example, you can. Of course, you're big enough to do that. But let's say to Darahan and Eldinet, you can also travel alone. Because again, it's just within the country, and that's very common. What I'm asking is a new experience, maybe. Maybe it's the first time that you traveled by train. Maybe have you experienced traveling by train? And when was that first time?
My fifth grade.
Oh, fifth grade. Timo, okay? Fifth grade and some other experiences. Yeah. Again, we're talking about a new experience. So you can use that. And you tell us about it. You tell us about it. Expound further. Why do you like it? Why that was important for you? Okay? So, on my end, I started teaching at the age of 18. There's this like pre-teaching program. So I started teaching at the age of 18 and then I graduated at the age of 19. So basically I started formal teaching at the age of 19. And that was new to me because in the Philippines there is what we call acceleration program. So after high school, let's say after grade 10, you may not anymore do 11 and 12 grades. So you may accelerate to the university, depending on your academic performance. So there's a program like that in the Philippines. So from grade 10, or before we call it as a fourth year education, then you can be accelerated to the university. No more grades 11 and 12. So I haven't experienced being an 11th and a 12th grader. I had no experience about being those being in those in those levels. So after that, university, and then that's why I also finished early at the age of 19. But normally it's around 22, right? 22, 23. University, I think 22. Yeah, 22. Okay, that's the earliest so far. All right, but again, what I'm saying is that is a new experience for me, being accelerated from high school to the university. Okay, I met a lot of challenges there, and that was a new experience for me. So you can also have your sharing about it. Number 6, this one, providing a backstory. What is this all about? Let's say, for example, you, what is this? If I may share, are you familiar with the anime series entitled The Last Airbender? I think all of us are familiar with that. What does it say? Are you familiar with The Last Airbender? If you watch anime, that's an anime, right? That's an anime. Yeah, it's one of a series, okay? Yeah, that one. Okay, the last Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender. Now, what I was exposed to more was the human version. The old one, not the latest one, the old one, wherein a lot of stories, a lot of scenes were not the same from the actual anime or something like that. All right, but when I saw, let's say, the series, the anime series, really, it was totally different from the human remake. All right, it was totally different. I said, oh, as a backstory, I would say I had actually seen this movie before. Okay, but when I checked or when I went over the anime series, a lot of change from what I have exposed to with product 3. So please be very ready with this. Okay, so what is this? There was this one grammar issue that you need to fix. I forgot. I was thinking about it a while ago, but I suddenly forgot. All right, but again, do well with the pronunciation next time and also extending your answers. Okay. Now, for all of you, please be reminded of the final mock test beginning on Thursday. We only have Thursday and Saturday as our classes. After that, you may not come here because I will be having new set of students during that time. But for example, if there is a need for you to improve further, like you're not satisfied with your performance or your improvement yet, so you may ask the manager. Maybe you can sit in again, but if you want to, but you may not really come here on Tuesday next week. So just this Thursday and Saturday. Okay? Alright, so that will be all. I will be seeing you again this coming Thursday for the final mock test. Please be here on time because we'll begin with the reading for only 1 hour. and then the listening afterwards. And then we'll check right away your practice. Okay, that will be all for tonight. I'll see you again on Thursday, everyone. Goodbye.